ground changes any body of water into gas. Now, part of the cycle has to do a lot with the sun. There always has to be a main source of energy in a cycle to make it work. So, for example, in the water cycle, it's the sun. But in other cycles, it could be the core of the earth because of its heat. So the next part of the water cycle is condensation. And condensation is water that collects as droplets on a cold surface when humid air is in contact with it. So when the warm vapors come up into the cold air, it forms a cloud. Next is precipitation. So precipitation is water that falls to the ground in any shape or form. So you guys know if it's colder, it's going to freeze, and if it's warmer, it's just going to be water. So this water can land all over the ground, obviously. So when it lands on a mountain, it takes it starts to crystallize, or crystallization, which means where the water freezes on the top of the mountain and creates those glaciers that we know about. Also, when the water lands onto forests and trees and that kind of stuff, that water then can be soaked up by the trees, and after that, the sun can take some of that water from the leaves and in the cycle of transpiration. So also when it precipitates, it goes into the ground and creates runoff. So runoff into other streams or other large bodies of water, or into ground aquifers, that kind of stuff. You can see it's already all connected. Okay. So the water cycle shaping Earth's surface. So rivers and streams. Rivers and streams are one of the things that shapes Earth's surface. So they're systems that are not only for moving water, but for moving sediment. So it is estimated that streams and rivers move about 1.65 billion tons of sediment each year. So you could consider these rivers sculptors of the land. So now it is true that most of the erosion is caused by raindrops and runoff, but rivers and streams can create erosional landforms such as canyons, valleys, and channels. So one example is the Mississippi River. So when it snows up north, all that water in the spring begins to melt, and it comes back down. Now there's so much water from all that snow, when it makes its way to the Mississippi, it totally floods the Mississippi. In that original channel, the banks of the Mississippi River cannot hold all that water. So that water erodes very quickly the once channel and makes a new channel. And evidence of this is that there used to be forts by the Mississippi River, but now those forts are miles away from the Mississippi because the channels have changed because of erosion. So, along with the Mississippi example, this shows that vigorous and non-vigorous streams affect whether or not more sediment is taken away from the banks. So if it's a vigorous stream, it's going to take more away than a non-vigorous stream. Now, on the pictures here, you can see I have two different colored arrows. So this lighter colored arrow is showing the erosion of softer rocks that the river has worn away easier. Now, here the black arrow is showing the harder rocks that have not worn away as easily, creating a ledge. Over there it shows the same thing. So this...
How many tabs do you have?
So this ledge also is what happens with, or what creates waterfalls. So these waterfalls can, they develop areas where they develop in areas where glaciers have gouged out the side of a mountain, something like that. So that is rivers and streams shaping the surface of there.
Glaciers, Mother Nature's bulldozers, otherwise known. Now, what these things do, these big giant chunks of ice that come down hills, they're pretty cool actually. When they slide down the mountain, it's called erosion, and they pick up all the chunks of rock. So, sometimes you can see it here, that the whole entire thing is moving downhill with gravity, just like a river, but a lot slower. So, what happens is at the bottom, the rocks get picked up and are brought and crunch along, and also the reason they look dirty is also due to rocks that come up there. Okay, so at the bottom of the glacier, when it comes down the mountain, it melts, and that rock and stuff is gathered at the bottom of the mountain, wherever it came down. That is called the glacial till. That's all the rocks that were in the glacier and have melted and come to the bottom. Usually over here you can see that as this comes down, you can see all the rocks that are falling. But this entire photo is just this, they're actually standing on a mountain because this thing's the size of, pretty sure, New York or something. So you can imagine entire skyscrapers just, coming down that mountain. So this thing's really huge. Awkward for these. Now, water from the surface comes down from the top and it seeps in to the ground and is stored in these aquifers. The water inside there is collected, and this process of when the water comes down in there is called infiltration. Which reacts with the I don't know how to pronounce this totally, impermeable rock, which is rock that cannot be penetrated by water. So that means the water is just stored there in these two layers. Yeah, and that's for now. So, stalactites, and stalagmites, water drips down from the roof, often usually contains minerals, because that's what rock is, minerals, and collect in these pillar-shaped forms. And then when that water comes down, it transfers the minerals. What's the word for it? Depositing. Deposits the minerals on the rock formation, causing a big drill down. So when the water drops off, stalagmites, yes. The water drips down, then deposits more, comes down, and goes up.
Ocean currents shaping the edges of continents. So ocean currents are created by heat of the sun. Heat from the sun creates pressure centers near the surface, and when the wind blows over the ocean around the pressure surface, around the centers of the pressure surfaces, it creates surface waves. So this constant push on the ocean surface forms ocean currents. So as you can see, this is the equator, and the west coast currents flow towards the equator. So that are these blue arrows here. So they're coming from the poles to the tropics, which are near the equator. So it's cold water coming into the warm climates. And for the east coast, the currents are flowing away from the equator. So that means that the tropics, the warm water, is going to the poles. So, because of these cold and warm water differences, it makes the edges of continents different. So, whenever you have colder water, it tends to have more of a slushier texture because it's solidifying, because the molecules are moving a lot slower, and that's what happens in a solid. So, whenever that water comes up and hits against the coast, this is Washington State coast, it rips at the coast and it eats at it. So it's very textural, it's very rough. Now, on the Gulf Coast, the water is very warm, and the molecules are moving very, very fast. So when it comes across the edge of the continent, it has a smooth result, and you don't have rocky, rough edges over here. You have very smooth ones because of the water. Okay, so now we're going to do the hands-on activity, which you guys are so excited about. All right, so you all have a mountain built. If not, then you're not going to be able to do what you're supposed to do. So you're going to take your glacier, and if you'll notice, all your glaciers are different sizes and shapes. And this is because when it comes off of the previous mountain, they're not going to come off all the same shape. So you're going to take your glacier, your little mini glacier, and you're going to drag it whatever way you please to make it like it was falling off the top of the mountain and create a little gouging through the mountain. Okay? Okay, once you've made your little gouging that has now formed in your mountain, you're going to take your cloud, which is your little sponge, and you're going to dip it in the water, and you're going to soak up as much water as possible. Okay? So then you're going to take your cloud and you're going to put it over your mountain, and you're going to squeeze that water, and you can see as the water goes into your little rivers you made, it erodes it even more. So that's showing the process of erosion, because when the glacier comes off, it makes that gouging. And then once it precipitates, you see that the water that's from the clouds is now coming into that gouge and creating more erosion and creating a new river or stream. So you guys can keep